Alrighty, y'all. Hello and welcome to finally a motorsport reaction again. It's been a while. I know there's a little bit fewer and far between as they used to be, so my apologies for that. But you know, this is pretty much the favorite series on this channel, is anything to do with cars and especially motorsports. We are looking at an onboard video. It's been a while. This is going to be very unique and something I know nothing about, right? This is way different than most motorsports in the U.S., way different than NASCAR or honestly even Formula One. We're looking at an old Le Mans car from Audi called the R10 TDI, and we're looking at an onboard video. This video is quite old. This will be linked down below if you would like to check it out further and, of course, browse the channel. It's my understanding that this isn't like, anything like the current car, but rather like 2009, 2010 era, I think. So, yeah, perhaps I'll look some stuff up about that kind of thing maybe afterwards. An LMP car, they're already very exotic to me, right? Almost on the same level as like an F1 car, like in that very prestigious, very scientific, very engineered race car. And then the fact that this has an Audi diesel in it is just weird in the best way, by the way. It's just not the, common playbook when it comes to building a race car, at least in my head. So, yeah, let's get straight into this. What the heck? Okay, so yeah, this is at Le Mans, the track. We're in France. Like, when I close my eyes and listen to it, it's so weird. It sounds good. But it just sounds so weird, right? I usually just picture screaming engines associated with race cars, right? Formula One, NASCAR, the list goes on. High RPM, right? Very dramatic gear changes, all that jazz. This thing is clearly fast, right? You can see it taking turns and coming off turns with a lot of torque, which I'm not surprised. It is a diesel after all. But obviously, this is not going to be revving as high as gasoline engines, right? Or regular petrol engines. I'm going to assume, what's the RPM limit on this thing? The red line's got to be what, like 5,000 RPM maybe at the most? That's super weird. And I believe this is a V12 diesel, correct? I believe I read in the description it's a 5.5 liter V12 turbo diesel. How freaking crazy is that for a race car? An open cockpit LMP car at that. What an experience this thing is. You gotta applaud them for being out there. This is way out there. And I love it. Oh yeah, that thing is hauling ass. Look at how fast that thing comes off the turn, right? He slowed down, he took the turn, and when he got back into the throttle, boom. Wow. See, here we go again. Jeez. By the way, this is like an old video with God knows what camera. So the audio's not the best, but you can still hear the sound of this thing coming through. It's just such a very industrial, weird sounding motor for me to associate with a race car, right? It's very bizarre, but I love it. I applaud, projects that are totally different. And when companies can go, in a different direction with something and make it work. And that's exactly what this is. This thing is crazy, dude. He also caught these cars from really far away. Wow. Thought that was going to be a drag race. He blew him away right away. He's like, see ya. And he is reeling this guy in fast. Oh my God. Man, that thing is dialed in. That is freaking dialed in. It sounds amazing at those low RPMs when you hear it with a little bit of load on it. Right when he slows down and then gets right back on the throttle, you get this really kind of almost raspy industrial noise coming from the engine. A V12 diesel too. That is so bizarre. I don't have much experience with diesels at all, but driven or been around, mostly V8 diesels or inline six diesels. That's pretty much it. V12 diesel is just, whoa, right? Like, that's just craziness. Thing has got so much speed. God, these handle exceptionally well. I mean, is it fair to say these are almost on the same level as Formula One cars, even at the time? I mean, I'm sure Formula One cars would have the edge, but I feel like these are exceptional in their performance. These LMP cars are just phenomenal, man. Like, they hug the turns like almost, it looks like it defies physics, right? Because F1 cars kind of look the part, right? They look like an airplane. They look like they're light, and they have the open wheel setup and all that. These are more full-bodied vehicles, and yet it's like they're glued to the ground. It's incredible. I imagine the power delivery on this has got to feel different as a race car driver as well. Because I know anytime I've driven a diesel vehicle just on the street, it feels completely different than a regular gasoline engine. Wow. This is spectacular. It's such a crazy sound. It's growing on me big time. Like, of course I like the sound, but it's just so weird to think of that sound with a race car like this. I just picture like a screaming V8 or V10, right? Gasoline. But it's kind of making more sense as I watch. So if we kind of pull it up here, let me go here, possibly. Yes. There it is, the R10 TDI. This thing is, by the way, absolutely gorgeous. I freaking love the design of this thing. Wow. I mean, that is iconic, too. I feel like I've definitely seen this maybe in video games a long time ago. I was probably younger, or in some sort of, museum footage or something, right? Like, I've definitely seen this before, that silver and red kind of paint scheme. And I remember like the Shell logo and stuff. This thing is just awesome, right? TDI power in a freaking exotic prototype race car like that. I love it. It's just in my head. I just can't shake that. That's so weird. As a sports prototype designed and built by Audi in partnership with Dallara. Built to the LMP1 regulations, R10 was highly successful throughout his career. Became the first diesel-powered car to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 2006. Wow, way back in 2006. I thought it was a little newer than that. That is almost 20 years ago. That's kind of freaky to think about, right? 2006, I swear, feels like it was recent. But it would be the first of 3 24-hour wins. So this got 3 wins. This is a very successful car then. I think that, kind of speaks to that this wasn't just a different kind of experiment, but rather a legitimate race car that was the one to beat. It had great success. I think that's freaking awesome, dude. It was unveiled to the public on December 13th, 2005 in Paris. It would go on to win the 06 24 hours just 200 days later. I mean, wow, they came out like, look at this, right? And it wasn't all hype. They backed it up. They said, look at this badass diesel, turbo diesel race car, and they brought it and they walked the walk. It freaking won. Now, it turns out, reading through this, that I was right thinking that this is pretty weird that this had a diesel, because, of course, this is not like the norm, right? It's not common. There was only like a couple entries, like literally in the 1949 24-hour race, there was an entry. Yeah, obviously, in a different class, they had a BMW 320D in the 98 24 hours of Nürburgring that had some success. So, but, you know, it's not like diesels were dominating all the time. I mean, this was still a weird, I would say, like, quite different entry into the sport, and it paid off, right? I mean, it freaking won multiple times. It makes me think, I'm not really sure how the regulation works and stuff, so this is a great video for comments, right, to correct anything or go further with some of these points. You know, why don't they have more diesels in racing, right? They seem to be legitimate, right? Now, of course, they're way different, and, you know, it's a whole different thing, making them run, making them reliable. It changes everything with packaging, with weight, right? Diesels usually weigh considerably more, isn't that correct? I know it's like a whole thing, so I get it that they're not like super common. Would it be far-fetched to have half the field be diesels? I wonder, right, what that's about. I wonder why it's still not normal, even when there's been some cars that have been very successful at it. This gives you a little sound clip. I think that's actually kind of cool. That sounds so good. It sounds very bizarre. I don't know how to like describe it. It's just so different, but it does sound good. It's just a very deep, bassy, industrial sound, right? It's not like a screaming V8, like NASCAR, stock cars, they scream to like 9,000 RPM out of a, 358 cubic inch V8, right? And it's a whole thing. They sound amazing to me, at least, but this is way different. But it's equally fun. It's so bizarre to me because, like we're reading, it's just not normal. Let's get a look at this thing. There it is, a V12 TDI. I kind of regret saying it's not exotic. That is exotic. I mean, look at it. First of all, it's beautiful. Second of all, come on, we're talking about a V12. V12s are crazy, but it's a V12 turbo diesel. I take back my words. This is exotic. It may not sound exotic like I mentioned, the sound comparisons before, but it does sound damn good, and it sounds like it means business. And like I said, I imagine driving this would be so different than literally going to the next garage over and taking one of the competitors' cars that presumably has a gasoline engine. This has just got to be such a wild experience. The way you put on the throttle, and I'm sure it just has instant torque, right? It's kind of like the closest thing for a mechanical engine to like the EVs. Everyone says the EVs, like electric vehicles, have that instant torque. Well, in my experience, I feel like diesels have like instant, like it's very sudden torque, and the throttle response is usually just super tight compared to gasoline equivalents. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to read here. I won't go through it. I'm definitely gonna read this in my own time, but very fascinating car. I appreciate suggestions like this. There's so many different cars and motorsports that I want to keep going with. These motorsport videos are just the best. They really are. We haven't had a good onboard for a while. So yeah, I hope you had fun with that one. And I will see you in the comments. Were these reliable too? Wouldn't diesels technically be more reliable? I would be interested to know that, right? I think they might get better fuel mileage as well, even on the limit. Interesting questions about these diesel R10 TDIs I have. See if you can answer those in the comments. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one, guys. I appreciate you watching. My name is Ian. You watch IWrocker. Until next time, catch you later.